Hello class. Today we're going to be talking about the volume of a sphere. We're going to be answering the question, how are spheres different than the other shapes that we've been studying? Well, first, let's just talk about what is a sphere. A sphere is a three-dimensional circle in all directions, like a ball, just like this one I have here. Now, the drawings, when we draw a sphere on a piece of paper, you'll usually see a circle, and then to show that it's 3D, there will be a dotted line showing a circle going in the other direction to mean that this is a three-dimensional shape. Okay, now as we learned in our last video, the formula for finding the volume of a sphere is quite different than finding the volume of a cone or a cylinder. Okay, this one's a little bit more complicated. So let's go ahead and write it down. Okay, now what we saw in the video is volume equals 4/3 times pi and times r to the third power. And I want to highlight this part right here. We are going to the third power and not squared. That's a big difference between a sphere and a cylinder or a cone. Now, one thing I'm going to do that's just a little bit different is instead of dealing with a fraction, because that's going to make our lives very, very frustrating, I'm going to take this fraction bar and I'm going to extend it all the way across so that what we're going to do is instead of dealing with a fraction, we're going to deal with this in 2 steps. The first step, we're going to multiply everything we have in the numerator. Then, once we get that answer, we are going to divide by 3. Okay, now let's go ahead and take a look at our first sphere and use our formula, and we'll find that using this formula is just as easy as any other formula. Once you get the numbers in the right spot, it's just calculator work. Okay, so for our sphere right here, we're going to have a radius, start from the center and go to the outside, and our radius is going to be 5. Now, you'll notice there's no height, there's nothing else, there's just a radius. And that's all we need for our formula here. So let's go ahead and fill this in just like we have it, okay? Volume is going to equal 4 times pi, and then we need the radius, which is 5, to the third power. Now, once I'm done with that part, I'm going to go ahead and divide everything by 3. Okay, so here comes my calculator to help me out. First thing I'm going to do is type in the numerator. 4 times pi times 5. Now, we're going to have to go to the third power, so we're going to need to use this little up arrow right here. Up arrow will get us up into the exponents range, and then type in a 3. Okay, so now you can see that I have 4 times pi times 5 to the third power. And then I hit enter. Okay, so there's my first step. I got, okay, for the first part of it, I got 1,570 point, I'm going to go ahead and round up because that's a 9 right there, 0.8. Now I'm not quite done yet. I need to do the second half. I need to take that answer and divide it by 3. And we got 523.6. Okay, now this is still a three-dimensional shape. So when I give it a measurement, let's say centimeters, I would put the little 3 there to say this is a three-dimensional shape. Okay, now that we've done this together, let's see how we do. Let's try another one. Okay, let's take a sphere. Do your best drawing these. It's okay if they're not perfect. I only know a few people who can draw a perfect circle, and I'm not one of them. All right, this time the radius from the center to the outside is going to be 3. Okay, so now let's do the first step and go ahead and fill in the formula. Go. So you should have filled in V equals 4 pi. Then we put a 3 to the third power divided by 3. How did you do? Okay, excellent. Now we're going to go ahead and get our calculator, and we are ready to type this in. Okay, so we're going to start with 4 times pi times 3, use the up arrow, to the third power. Enter. All right, so we got ourselves our first answer, but we're not done yet. The second step tells us we need to go ahead and divide by 3. Okay, so now we've got our final answer. It's 113. Then as I'm looking at the decimals, this 9 tells us to, yes, we're going to need to raise that 0 to a 1. And let's go ahead and label it. I'm just going to use centimeters again, to the third power. All right, hopefully you're getting the hang of it. Now, as always, whenever we do anything with circles, sometimes instead of being given the radius, you're going to be given a diameter. Okay, so let's have our sphere, and this time I'm going to give you the diameter, and the diameter is going to be 20. So before we solve this, we're going to need to figure out what is the radius. Good. If you told me that the radius from the center to the outside was 10, you are correct. Now that we know the radius is 10, we can go ahead and fill in our formula. 4 times pi with 10 to the third power divided by 3. All right, calculator time. Let's do 4 times pi times 10 to the third power. We've got this answer. And then last step we need to do is divide by 3. And there we have it. 4,188 point. Let's see the rounding again. The 9 makes us round up to an 8. All right. Hopefully you're getting a hang of it and realizing that as long as you have a formula, this is mostly just calculator work. Now, I would like to check for understanding by doing one last circle together. Okay, so we're going to have our sphere. Now, I'm going to give you a diameter just like last time so that you can show that you know what you're doing. Okay, this time the diameter is 8. Okay, now you go ahead and solve for this one. Go. All right, first thing you should have done was look at the diameter of 8 and decide that the half of that, so the radius, would be 4. Then we go ahead and put that in our formula. We have 4 times pi times 4 to the third power divided by 3. Now we're ready for our calculator. 4 times pi times 4 to the third power gives us this answer right here. And then our second step, we go ahead and divide by 3. So our final answer is 268 point, and the 8's going to make that round up. Good job. All right, so that is our spheres. And now you are ready to go and practice. Good luck and have a good day.